Before you hear a single name, imagine this. A father opens his hands to bless his home and almost uses those same hands to destroy it. If you keep watching, you'll learn why a hardworking man with a clean heart walked into a forest at night carrying the one thing he swore to protect, his only daughter, and how a whisper of easy riches turned into a roar that nearly swallowed his soul. The village was small, ringed by red earth and tall trees that combed the sky. People greeted each other by name. Drums and bird calls stitched the hours together. In that village lived Tar, older than most of his friends. Not rich, never cruel. He rose before dawn, bent his back for other men's fields, and brought his tired smile home like bread. His wife traded fruits and green leaves in the market and laughed the way rain laughs on a hot roof. They had 2 sons with dust on their ankles and a single daughter named Amina, whose voice made even grumpy goats pause and listen. Tar's house was a house of stories. Every evening, after sweat cooled and steam rose from bowls, he told simple tales, and the children added new endings. Love felt like a lantern that never burned out. But wealth does more than fill bowls. It fills people's eyes. Tar's old companions, men who once shared calabashes and jokes, began to step away. They grew fat on their own harvests. Their greetings became thin, and shame crept up Tar's neck whenever he stood among them. There was a feast one season, goats roasting, drums thudding, cola nuts cracking like little thunder. Tar arrived hopeful. His friends waved him over, fed him, poured him sweet palm wine. Then, when bellies were round and plates were bare, one of them rose and said, "Tar, you are not as rich as us. Pack the plates." Laughter stabbed the air. Tar blinked as if smoke had stung his eyes. "We are friends. I am older. Each man can carry his own plate," he said. "Or," the man smirked, "we tell the seller you didn't pay." Pride fought hunger inside Tar's chest. Pride lost, only this once, he told himself, and he stacked plates with hands that knew the weight of yams and shame. He walked home under a sky full of indifferent stars. His wife heard the story in the slow way he opened the door. She set a warm bowl before him and said, "Eat first." Later, when children slept, he admitted, "They made me small." She touched his shoulder. No one can make small what God has made full. Tomorrow work, tonight rest. Tomorrow came like it always does. Tar's calluses thickened. His patience grew thin. Some employers delayed pay with soft lies. "Come tomorrow, brother." And then the next tomorrow. A friend offered a few coins if Tar would scrub floors and wash clothes until his hands wrinkled like old leaves. Tar did it because children cannot chew pride. Another field owner promised wages after a week of breaking soil beneath a burning sky, then sent Tar away with nothing but dust on his tongue. Yet every dawn, Tar stood again. Harvest time approached, the season when work could finally translate into plenty. Tar went to Chief Azuka, a man whose compound had more corners than some families had plates. "My chief," Tar said, "I can bring my 2 sons. We will harvest until your barn's grown." The chief's smile showed teeth as white as peeled cassava. "Good. Start at first light." Tar and his boys bled sweat into the soil. Sun-bit shoulders, rain slapped faces, sacks filled, backs ached. Day dragged into day until the barns yawned with grain. Tar wiped his brow and went to the chief for payment. Azuka counted coins into Tar's hand, only a third of what was due. "Come tomorrow for the rest," he said, voice soft as oil. Tar's heart skipped. This chief never split pay, but he nodded, thanked him, and carried the smaller blessing home. That night, the stew tasted rich, and children laughed with greasy cheeks. Tar's wife watched his eyes instead of his bowl. "Something sits on your spirit," she said. "Azuka gave only part," he answered, "told me to return." She breathed out slowly. "Then you will return. Eat. Your worry won't season the soup." Morning brought Tar back to the chief's compound. Azuka greeted him like a long-lost cousin. "Sit, eat, drink," he said, spreading food as if the earth itself had cooked for them. Sweetness on the tongue makes ears go soft. When the bowls were empty, Azuka leaned back. "Tar, your back is faithful, but your years are climbing. I know a way to make your hands rest while your house grows fat. There's an old friend of mine by the forest's edge. Visit him. No blood, no violence, just a small ritual. In return, wealth." The word wealth rang like a bell inside Tar's chest. Clear, dangerous. "What ritual?" Tar asked. The chief's eyes shone like a river that hides its depth. "A harmless rite. You will leave with more than coins. Take this," he added, drawing a bundle wrapped in cloth, heavy, obscene in its size. 10 times what I owe. A taste of tomorrow. No rush. Think." Tar had carried poverty like a yoke. Now he carried plenty like a burning coal. He walked home with the chief's gift hidden beneath his wrapper. His wife's eyes widened when she saw the bundle. "From where?" she asked, voice steady. Tar told the truth, every drop of it. The forest. The ritual. The promise without blood. She listened, lips pressed thin. Easy riches come with hard shadows. We eat honesty slowly. We swallow deceit fast, and it chokes. That night, the money slept under a mat. Tar did not. He counted blessings, then counted worries, then counted the cracks in the ceiling. Dawn painted the roof pink and found him still awake. For days he argued with himself in silence. He pictured Amina, laughing as she tried to balance a guava on her head. He pictured his sons, strong as saplings. He pictured full barns with his name on them at last. Pride, fear, love. 3 oxen pulling one cart in opposite directions. At sunset, on the 4th day, Tar told his wife, "I will go to the forest. I will meet the old man. If I see a thorn, I will turn back." She held his face as if memorizing it. "Go with eyes open. Come back with hands clean." He promised, but promises are sometimes umbrellas under a sideways rain. The forest took him in with the dry hush of fallen leaves. The old man's hut leaned against a tree older than memory. The man himself wore a beard like winter and eyes like a drought. "Azuka's friend," he said, without being told. "The ground knows your footsteps. Are you ready?" Tar's mouth was dry. Ready, they stepped into a clearing traced with stones. Symbols crawled across the earth like vines. The old man's voice rose and fell, a drum made of words. He pressed a bowl of dark oil into Tar's hands. "No blood," he said. "No harm, rub this oil. The gods will open a gate." Tar anointed his arms, his chest, his brow. Warmth spread where hunger used to live. The air thickened. Silence bent. The old man set his palms upon Tar's head. "Be prudent," he warned. "All gifts carry a price, even when no coin is asked." A pouch of gold kissed Tar's palm as they parted. "A beginning," the old man said. "More will find you." Tar climbed out of the trees with a heart that beat 2 songs at once, joy and something colder. At home, the children's gasps were sweet, and his wife's fingers trembled around a coin she had never expected to hold. They ate late and laughed loudly, and when sleep finally came, it wore a new perfume, hope mixed with worry. The first proof of a miracle is not thunder. It's the quiet way neighbors start whispering your name. Wealth came like Harmattan dust, everywhere, inside everything. New cloth hung from pegs that had known only patched wrappers. Calabashes gleamed. Bracelets chimed on little wrists. Tar bought a small piece of land with a fence that actually kept goats out. He bought chickens that laid eggs before the children woke. He bought the feeling of breathing without counting the coins first. The village took notice. Mouths opened, then closed, then opened again, like fish trying to explain water. He found treasure, some said. He cured a tree of money, joked others. Old friends returned, carrying sweet words tied with ribbons. "Tar, our brother!" They sang as if the feast insult had never happened. "Teach us your road. Let us walk it together." Tar kept his face smooth. "The gods looked kindly," he said. That was both true and not true enough. Even at home, the joy had edges. Tar's wife smiled at full pots, but kept her eyes on her husband, who sometimes stared at nothing as if listening for footsteps behind the door. He gave more to the needy than he ever could before. Still, when night folded over them, something in him stayed awake, counting. Weeks turned into a season of soft abundance. Tar bought more land. The farm that had always lived in his dreams stepped into the sun. He built a small granary and planted yams whose vines curled like questions. Yet the more his fields greened, the more his sleep browned into restless dust. His old friends pressed harder. "Brother," one said, leaning so close that the smell of kola nut filled Tar's nose, "you speak of blessings. Bless us too. We will share profits. We will swear oaths." Another offered a herd if Tar would just whisper the trail to fortune. Tar answered with the same 3 pebbles: work, patience, God. They heard none of it. Their offerings grew larger, their smiles sharper. Friendship, when it wears a mask, leaves its eyes on the table. Their visits thinned when they realized Tar wouldn't open the hidden door. Rumor rushed in to fill the gap. Some claimed Tar had traded his shadow to a river spirit. Others said a traveling merchant had left a chest under Tar's bed. Tar carried the weight of their talk like a calabash filled all the way to the lip. Every step careful, every stumble a spill. One evening, a message arrived without a messenger. Not a scroll, not a knock. It was the old man's voice, threading Tar's memory so suddenly he stopped breathing. "Come, the clearing is waiting." The next morning, Tar walked to the forest, like a man walking into the mouth of a proverb. The hut looked unchanged. The old man did not. Something about him had sharpened, like a knife that had tasted bone. "The time has come," he said. "The gods require what seals the gate they opened." "What price?" Tar asked, throat tight. The question was a net. He already feared the catch. "Your only daughter," said the old man. "Amina!" Tar staggered, air fleeing his lungs. The old man's words didn't thunder. They hissed like a hot stone dropped into water. "No," Tar croaked. "Ask my breath. Ask my years. Take every coin, but not her." "Debt chooses its own currency," the old man replied. "Refuse, and the gate closes on your fingers. Refuse, and madness will eat your name. Refuse, and the gods will harvest the girl themselves. 7 days. 7 days is a very short rope and a very long snake." Tar returned home hollowed, carrying his smile like a mask carved too heavy. He could not tell his wife. How do you frame such a sentence? How do you ask a mother to measure her child against a barn full of grain? He tried to tie himself to reason. "I have 2 sons," he murmured in a darkness that smelled of new wood. The words were rotten the moment they left his mouth, and he knew it. Love does not divide, it multiplies. Days unspooled. The first morning, Amina plucked flowers and tucked them behind her ears. Tar looked away because her joy hurt. The second, she laughed at a joke her brother told, and the sound lodged in his chest like a fishbone. The third, she brought her mother water and a string of little questions. Why is the moon shy today? Why do ants always know where the sugar is? And Tar had to leave the room to hide the tear that crawled down his face. By the 4th day, he was a man made of cracks. On the 5th night, terror dressed itself as duty. Tar ground herbs the old man had named and mixed them into a drink that smelled like a memory you don't want to keep. He warmed the black oil until it woke and shone. He breathed like someone trying to count the space between lightning and thunder. "Amina," he called softly. She ran, trusting a little bird who had never known stones. "Drink this," he said. "It is for protection." A pause, then, "Rub this oil for blessing." Her eyes searched his face the way children search a sky for rain. She sipped, grimaced, nodded, obeyed. Because children believe in the hands that cook their food. Sleep took her quickly. Tar lifted her, light as the day she first learned to walk, carried her through sleeping paths, and stepped under the trees. The clearing waited with its patient stones. He laid Amina down gently, as if the earth could feel. The mortar stood ready. The pestle leaned beside it like a tall witness. Tar's breath trembled. "Forgive me," he whispered, and the words tasted like ashes. He raised his hands. No wind. No owl. Then a scream, raw, tearing, split the darkness. "Tar!" It was his wife, hair unbound, feet flying, eyes blazing with a fire older than any ritual. Behind her came light. Torches held by neighbors ripped from their sleep by a sound that did not need translation. A mother's alarm. Hands caught. Tar's wrists. Men wrestled the pestle away. Women circled Amina, whose chest still rose and fell slowly. Tar folded like a cut rope. "What have I become?" He muttered into the dirt. His wife cradled the girl and looked at her husband as if seeing a stranger wearing his skin. "You would have broken what you begged the gods to give," she said, voice shaking. "We will not lose her to darkness you brought into our house." They rushed Amina to the herbalist, who smelled the oil, tasted the air, and set to work with roots and steam and words meant to untie knots no one could see. The villagers tied Tar to a post in his compound as dawn rubbed sleep from the sky. Faces gathered full of anger and pity in equal parts. News galloped through the village like a horse with no rider. A father, a daughter, an almost. An elder's staff struck the ground. "To the king," he said, "justice does not grow in private gardens.